Admiral Thex sat in his command chair, watching his fleet fall apart. 50 years of military service, and it came to this. His own officers refusing orders, ships breaking formation, the carefully planned operation dissolving into chaos. He should have been furious. Instead, he felt something unexpected: relief. Captain Hyunwoo opened a private channel to the Admiral's flagship. "Admiral Thex, we don't want war. We never did." Thex looked at the human's face on his screen. Young, earnest, completely sincere. "Then what do you want, Captain?" "A galaxy where people help each other. Where compassion isn't calculated on spreadsheets. Where no one is abandoned." Hyunwoo paused. "Admiral, you followed orders your whole life. I understand that. But orders that demand cruelty aren't worthy of loyal soldiers. Your honor isn't in obeying. It's in choosing the right path." Thex thought about the classified files that Ambassador Mireille had revealed. 37 catastrophes. Billions of lives dismissed as unworthy of saving. He thought about his daughter back on his homeworld, and what he would want if disaster struck her. "Stand down all weapons," he ordered his crew. "Prepare to negotiate." Commander Yara let out a breath she had been holding. Around the bridge, relief showed on every face. The fleet that had come to destroy the Covenant instead began to transform into something else. Some ships returned to Council space. Others, like Commander Yara's vessel, formally requested to join the Covenant. Admiral Thex himself chose retirement, but not before transmitting his personal logs to Council space, a military officer's account of why he could not follow immoral orders. The impact across the galaxy was immediate. If the Council's own enforcement fleet wouldn't fight to maintain their system, what did that say about the system itself? On Council worlds, citizens demanded answers. Why had their leaders concealed so many catastrophes? Why was helping refugees considered rebellion? Protests turned into movements. Governments that had ruled for centuries found their authority crumbling. High Chancellor Vrex tried to rally support, but even his own species turned against him. A young Quinn delegate named Thessa led the opposition. "The Chancellor speaks of order, but it is the order of a prison. We are not meant to live in cages, calculating the worth of lives. We are meant to grow, to help each other, to build together." Within a week of the failed military action, the Galactic Council held an emergency vote. High Chancellor Vrex was removed from power. The Council itself splintered. Some species withdrew entirely, others desperately tried to reform. A few actively sought to join the Covenant. The rigid order that had ruled the galaxy for millennia collapsed. Not through war, but through the simple realization that cruelty was a choice, not a necessity. On Earth, Director Sang-hee addressed the United Earth Coalition and their Covenant allies. The crisis had passed. They had survived. Now came the harder question: what would they build with their victory? "We could claim leadership," Sang-hee said to the assembly. Representatives from 50 species listened. "We sparked this change. We took the first stand. No one would question our authority." Governor Yoon Seo, sitting in the audience, saw where this was going. She smiled slightly. "But that's not who we are," Sang-hee continued. "We didn't do this to gain power. We did it because it was right. So I propose this. The Covenant of Open Stars becomes a true federation. Every species, regardless of size or strength, has equal voice. Every decision requires consensus. We lead by example, not by authority." The vote was unanimous. The work of rebuilding began immediately. Teacher Kyung-soo's school model was adopted across Covenant space. Mixed species education became the standard. Children grew up learning that their differences made them stronger, not weaker. Engineer Daehyun and Thessian's energy innovations spread to dozens of worlds. But more importantly, their collaboration became a template. Mixed species research teams achieved breakthroughs that homogeneous groups never could. A human physicist and a prism mathematician solved problems in quantum mechanics that had stumped scientists for centuries. A Nethran biologist and a Korthi chemist developed medicines that worked across 20 different biologies. Dr. Bora's medical system expanded into a truly universal healthcare network. Knowledge was shared freely. No species was denied treatment. The Velrathi healing protein that had started it all became just one tool among thousands. As species contributed their own unique medical knowledge, Merchant Captain Subin rebuilt her company, but different this time. Her ships flew Covenant colors and employed mixed crews. She discovered that diversity wasn't just ethically right, it was practically better. Her Yulani navigator could plot courses through stellar phenomena that human pilots missed. Her Nethrin engineer solved mechanical problems through completely different approaches than human engineers. Within a year, Subin's company was more profitable than her old one had ever been. Ethical business and success weren't mutually exclusive. They were complementary. Counselor Jinho underwent the most dramatic personal transformation. After watching his daughter nearly die protecting Kristen from violence, after seeing the Covenant's success, after talking with refugees who became friends, something in him changed. He appeared on broadcasts across human space, his face showing emotions he usually kept hidden. I was wrong. I let fear turn into cruelty. I calculated the cost of compassion and decided we couldn't afford it. But the real question wasn't whether we could afford compassion. It was whether we could afford to lose it. He dedicated the rest of his political career to reconciliation programs. Humans who had suffered during the crisis learned refugees' stories. Refugees learned about human struggles. Understanding grew, slowly but surely. His daughter Hei-Wan worked with him now, openly and proudly. Kristen remained close to the family, practically adopted. Jinho's grandchildren, when they came, would grow up with Velrathi siblings. The future taking shape one family at a time. Security Chief Jae-sung worked to heal the divisions on Mars Colony. The riots had left deep scars. He established joint security forces, humans and refugees working together to protect everyone. It wasn't easy. Trust took time. But it happened. The first time a human officer and a Nethrin officer saved each other's lives responding to a disaster, something shifted. They weren't just co-workers anymore. They were partners. 5 years after the Wandering Hope discovered those dying Velrathi colony ships, the galaxy looked completely different. The Covenant of Open Stars included over 200 species. Former Council worlds joined, bringing their resources and knowledge to bear on problems rather than ignoring them. Refugee movements still occurred. The universe didn't stop creating disasters, but now when a species faced catastrophe, dozens of civilizations responded. Relief fleets launched within hours. The question was never, can we afford to help? It became, how fast can we get there? Some called it inefficient. Some warned it would collapse under its own weight. But it kept working, kept growing, kept proving that compassion could be a foundation for civilization. On the anniversary of humanity's first rescue, Thessian addressed a gathering at the New Soul Memorial Plaza. His crystalline form blazed with vitality now, colors shifting through brilliant blues and greens. Around him stood thousands of beings from dozens of species. Through telepathic translation, his words reached everyone. 5 years ago, we were dying. Not just our bodies, but our spirits. We had begged for mercy and found only closed doors. In our darkest moment, we encountered a species that could have passed us by. They had every reason to. Helping us defied logic, destroyed their economy, risked their future. He paused, colors pulsing with emotion. But they helped anyway. Not because it was easy or profitable or logical. They helped because they saw suffering and couldn't look away. That simple act, that refusal to harden their hearts, changed the galaxy forever. In the audience, Captain Hyunwoo stood with his crew. Lieutenant Ji-won wiped tears from her eyes. Engineer Dae-hyun had his arm around a Nethrin colleague. Dr. Bo-ra stood with a group of Velrathi medical students. We came as refugees, Thessian continued. But humanity taught us something profound. We're all refugees. Refugees from entropy, from chaos, from the cold void. The universe doesn't care about us, but we can care about each other. That's how we survive. Together. The crowd erupted in sound. Cheers, clicking mandibles, telepathic waves of approval, musical tones, every species expressing agreement in their own way. Later that evening, Admiral Hyunwoo, he had been promoted, stood on the bridge of the Wandering Hope 2. The new vessel was larger than the original, designed specifically for rescue and aid operations. His crew reflected the new galaxy. Humans, Velrathi, Nethrin, Yulani, Korthi, Prism, and species that hadn't even existed in Council records. His operations officer, Soo-young, was human. His navigator was Yulani. His chief engineer was Nethrin. His medical officer was Velrathi. They worked together seamlessly, their differences creating strength. Captain, we're receiving distress calls from the Forgotten Reaches, Su Young reported. Multiple species in need. Looks like environmental disaster. The Forgotten Reaches. We're beyond even the old councils. Territory, unexplored, dangerous. Whatever species lived there had been completely isolated. Yun Wu didn't hesitate. Set course. Maximum speed. Yes, sir. As the Wandering Hope 2 engaged its engines, the transmission of the Council's secret files spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every major civilization had seen the evidence. 37 hidden catastrophes. Billions of beings left to die, while the Council maintained its facade of order and efficiency. On Earth, Director Sang-He watched the galactic news feeds with something like awe. Ambassador Mireille had taken an enormous risk. If this backfired, humanity would face worse than economic sanctions. But if it worked, the response came faster than anyone expected. Not from the Council, but from the species they had governed. Protests erupted on 40 different worlds. Citizens demanded answers. How many more catastrophes were being hidden? How many species had been condemned to death in the name of efficiency? High Chancellor Vrex tried to contain the damage. He appeared on galactic broadcasts, his insectoid features carefully controlled. These situations were handled according to established protocols. Resources are finite. Difficult decisions must be made. But the words rang hollow. The images of dying children, of desperate refugees, of civilizations crying out for help that never came. Those images spoke louder than any protocol. Captain Hyunwoo received a priority message on the Wandering Hope. Lieutenant Jiwon's voice was excited. Captain, you need to see this. Multiple ships approaching. Hundreds of them. The view screen showed what looked like an armada, but not a military one. Ships of every size and design from dozens of different species. As they drew closer, transmission requests flooded in. The first came from a Korthi vessel. Human ship, this is Commander Kirith of the Korthi Alliance. We bring supplies and support. We stand with Earth. Then more messages overlapping. Prism ships carrying rare minerals. Menthali vessels with medical supplies. Species that Hyunwoo had never heard of. Small civilizations that had been quietly watching humanity's struggle. Ambassador Kireth, an amphibian female with bright green skin, sent a personal message to Director Sang-He. For 300 years my people obeyed the Council's rules. We believed survival required cruelty, that compassion was inefficient. You showed us we were wrong. Today we choose hope over fear. On Earth, Governor Yoon Seo coordinated the massive influx of aid. It wasn't enough to solve all their problems, but it was something. More importantly, it was proof that humanity wasn't alone. The supplies were one thing. The political implications were another. These species, by openly supporting humanity, were defying the Council. Some were small, weak civilizations that the Council could crush easily, but they came anyway. Intelligence. Officer Minseok's secret network emerged from the shadows. In a hidden location, representatives from 23 species met physically for the first time. They came from different worlds, different biologies, different philosophies. But they shared one belief: the Council's way was wrong. Minseok addressed the gathering. We all know the risks. The Council will retaliate. They'll use economic pressure, political manipulation, maybe even military force. But if we stand together, if we build an alternative to their system, we can change the galaxy. A prism representative, a being made of living silicon crystals, spoke up. Their voice resonated like wind chimes. What do you propose? A rebellion? Not rebellion, Minseok replied. A choice. We create the Covenant of Open Stars, a federation based on mutual aid, protection of the vulnerable, and rejection of the Council's calculus. Any species can join. No one is abandoned. The discussion lasted hours. Some were skeptical. The Council had ruled for thousands of years. Could a group of minor species really challenge that? But others were inspired. The Korthi delegate spoke, passionately about shame at watching the Velrathi suffer while his government did nothing. The Menthali representative talked about her world's own history of being dismissed by the Council as insignificant. By the end, they had agreement. The Covenant of Open Stars would be formally announced in 1 week. 23 founding species. Open membership to any who shared their principles. Captain Hyunwoo found himself appointed as military coordinator. His exploration vessel, the Wandering Hope, became an unlikely headquarters. The irony wasn't lost on him. A modest survey ship, now the center of a potential galactic revolution. Engineer Daehyun and Thession's energy project went into full deployment. With support from the Covenant species, they had resources to accelerate the timeline. The crystalline energy storage systems began rolling out to human colonies. Energy costs dropped. Life became slightly easier. Dr. Bora's medical innovations spread through the Covenant. Species shared knowledge freely, combining their different perspectives to solve problems that had stumped them individually. A Korthi biochemist and a human geneticist worked together to cure a disease that had plagued both species. A Prism engineer and a Nethran biologist created a water purification system that worked on 20 different world types. On Earth, Teacher Kyung-soo's school became a model for the new galaxy they were building. His students came from 30 species now. They learned from each other's differences. A Velrathi child taught humans about crystalline mathematics. A human girl showed Yulani students how to play basketball. A Nethran explained fungal networks to fascinated classmates. It wasn't always smooth. Cultural misunderstandings happened constantly, but the children adapted faster than their parents. To them, this mixed world was normal. Counselor Jin Ho watched these changes from his office in New Seoul. His opposition movement had fractured. Some still agreed with him, but others had been swayed by the Covenant's support, by the innovations emerging from cross-species cooperation. His political power was fading. His daughter, Haewon, came to see him one evening. Kristen was with her, as usual. The young Velrathi had become almost a second daughter to the family. "Dad, I know you're struggling," Haewon said. "I know you still think we made a mistake. But can't you see what's happening? We're not just saving refugees. We're building something new." Jin Ho looked at Kristen. The Velrathi child's colors pulsed with nervous hope. He remembered authorizing her mother's medical treatment, remembered the gratitude in those alien eyes. "I see it," he said quietly. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. This new thing you're building will collapse and crush us all." "Maybe it will," Haewon admitted. "But isn't it worth trying?" Jin Ho had no answer. The Galactic Council did not react well to the formation of the Covenant. High Chancellor Vrex convened an emergency session. The transmission was broadcast across galactic networks. They wanted everyone to see what happened to rebels. "The so-called Covenant of Open Stars is an illegal organization," Vrex declared. "Any species participating will face immediate sanctions. Any ship flying Covenant colors will be seized. This rebellion will be crushed." Ambassador Mirai stood alone in the council chamber, representing humanity. Most other Covenant species didn't have ambassadors. They were too small to merit representation before. She faced 200 hostile aliens without flinching. "High Chancellor, we are not rebels. We are simply choosing a different path, one based on compassion rather than cruelty. You are choosing chaos over order. The Council system has maintained galactic stability for millennia." "Stability built on corpses," Mirai replied. 37 hidden catastrophes. How many more that we haven't discovered? Your stability is a lie, Chancellor. And more species are seeing through it every day. Vrex's mandibles clicked in anger. "Then you leave us no choice. The Council mobilizes its enforcement fleet. Any species that does not immediately withdraw from this covenant will be considered hostile." The chamber fell silent. This was an open threat of military action. The enforcement fleet consisted of 300 warships, enough firepower to destroy any of the Covenant species several times over. Mirai kept her voice steady. "Then we will face your fleet together. The Covenant does not abandon its members." She left the chamber knowing that war was coming. Admiral Thex of the Krethic Empire received his orders with mixed feelings. He was a career military officer, loyal to the Council for 50 years. He believed in order, in the system that had kept the galaxy from chaos. But he had also seen Ambassador Mirai's evidence. 37 catastrophes. He thought about his own family, his own world. If disaster had struck them, would the Council have helped? Or would they have been another hidden crisis, another uncomfortable number on a classified report? His second-in-command, Commander Yara, voiced what he was thinking. "Admiral, this doesn't feel right. We're mobilizing to attack species that are just trying to help refugees." "Orders are orders, Commander, even when they're wrong." Thex had no answer for that. The enforcement fleet moved toward human space. 300 warships bristling with weapons. They emerged from hyperspace in a formation designed to intimidate. A wall of military might that blotted out the stars facing them was the Covenant fleet. It was a joke by military standards. Merchant ships, converted passenger liners, a handful of actual warships from minor species. And at the center, the Wandering Hope. An exploration vessel never meant for combat. Captain Hyunwoo stood on his bridge, looking at the overwhelming force arrayed against them. His crew was silent. They all knew the odds. Lieutenant Jiwon spoke quietly. "Captain, we can't win this." "I know. Then why are we here?" Hyunwoo thought about the question. Why were they here? Because they had chosen to help the Velrathi. 6 months after the first rescue, Earth teetered on the edge of collapse. Financial Minister Won-shik stood before the United Earth Coalition Council chamber, presenting numbers that made even the most optimistic members go silent. Charts projected on the walls showed unemployment at 23%. Resource shortages plagued every colony. The Galactic Council's sanctions had closed off 70% of human trade routes. "We're not just struggling," Won-shik said quietly. "We're dying. Slowly but certainly. Within a year we'll face widespread famine. Within 2, complete economic collapse." Governor Yoon Seo listened from her seat, feeling the weight of 12 million refugee lives pressing down on her shoulders. 12 million. The number had grown beyond anyone's expectations. After the Velrathi, Nethrin, and Yulani came the Dressi, the Korvax, the Menthali. Each group brought their own desperate story. Each time humanity said yes, and each time the price grew higher. Merchant Captain Subin's company had finally gone bankrupt 3 weeks ago. She sat in her small apartment on Mars Colony, looking at dissolution papers. 20 years of work gone. Her crew had scattered, looking for any work they could find. Most couldn't. Human merchant vessels weren't welcome anywhere in Council space. Her former first officer had sent a bitter message. "I hope you're happy, Captain. I hope saving aliens was worth destroying our lives." Subin had no answer. Some days she believed it was worth it. Other days, watching her savings drain away, she wasn't sure anymore. On Earth, Teacher Kyung-soo's school had transformed. What started as a handful of Velrathi children had grown into a full program with 17 different species. His classroom was chaos. Not bad chaos, just the chaos of different beings trying to learn together. The Velrathi children absorbed information through light patterns. The Nethrin learned through chemical signals. The Yulani preferred musical tones. Kyung-soo did his best. He worked 18-hour days, came home exhausted, and woke up to do it again. His wife Sunmi worked even longer hours at the mental health clinic. The trauma cases never stopped coming. One evening, Kyung-soo came home to find Sunmi crying at the kitchen table. "I lost one today," she said. "A Nethrin." He couldn't take it anymore. All his family died in the biological attack. He just gave up. Kyung-soo held her while she cried. They were helping save millions. But they couldn't save everyone. The opposition to the refugee policy grew stronger. Councillor Jin-ho's movement swelled from thousands to millions. People were hungry, scared, angry. They needed someone to blame, and the refugees were easy targets. Jin-ho stood before a crowd of 50,000 in New Seoul, his voice amplified across the plaza. "We are compassionate people, but compassion without wisdom is just self-destruction. How many human children must go hungry before we admit we cannot save everyone?" The crowd roared agreement, but Jin-ho's daughter Haewon stood at the edge of that crowd watching her father. Next to her was Kristen, the young Velrathi whose mother Jin-ho had helped save. Kristen's colors pulsed with sadness. "Does your father really want us to leave?" Kristen asked through her translator. Haewon didn't know what to say. Since helping Kristen's mother, her father had become quieter at home. Less certain, but he still led the opposition, still demanded the refugees be sent away. Was it conviction, or was he just trapped by his own rhetoric? Director Sang-hee called an emergency meeting with all human colony leaders. Captain Hyunwoo attended via video link from the Wandering Hope. Ambassador Mirai joined from the council station where she represented humanity. "We need to discuss our options," Sang-hee said. Her face looked drawn, aged by stress. "The ultimatum deadline is in 3 weeks. If we don't comply, the council will implement full quarantine. We'll be completely isolated. Can we survive that?" someone asked. Financial Minister Won Shik shook his head. "Not for long. We depend on imports for critical materials, medical supplies, certain foods. Within months, people will start dying. So what do we do?" Governor Yoon Seo asked. "Send the refugees back into space? Let them die?" Silence fell over the meeting. Ambassador Mirai spoke up from her station. "I've been in back-channel communications with some younger species. Not council members, but civilizations under their influence. They're watching us. Some admire what we're doing. A few have sent secret aid shipments. A few secret shipments won't solve our economic crisis," Won-shik pointed out. "No," Mirai agreed, "but it means we're not completely alone." Captain Hyunwoo cleared his throat. "There's something else. Dr. Bora and Engineer Dae-hyun have been working with the refugees. The Velrathi healing protein is just the start. The Nethrin have shown us agricultural techniques that could increase crop yields by 40%. The Yulani are natural architects. They've designed habitat modifications that reduce energy costs by 30%. "That's good," Sang-hee said. "But it's not enough, is it?" "Not yet," Hyunwoo admitted. "But we're not just supporting refugees anymore. We're building partnerships. Given time, we don't have time," Won-shik interrupted. 3 weeks. On Mars colony, the tension exploded again. Security Chief Jae-sung received reports of another attack on a refugee district. This time it was organized, planned. 50 masked humans set fire to a Nethrin residential section. The fungal-based buildings burned quickly. Jae-sung arrived with his security team to find chaos. Refugees fleeing, humans attacking them. His own people turned into a mob by fear and desperation. He ordered his team to use non-lethal force to disperse the crowd. But when a young human man, barely 20 years old, stood before him with tears streaming down his face, Jae-sung hesitated. "My sister is starving," the young man shouted.
"She's 6 years old and there's not enough food because we're feeding them."
"How is that fair?" Jae-sung had no answer. He arrested the man anyway. It was his job. But he understood the anger. That night, emergency services counted the casualties. 17 Nethrin dead, 4 humans, dozens injured. The situation was spiraling out of control. Director Sang-hee held a debate with Counselor Jin-ho, broadcast live across all human worlds. Billions watched. Jin-ho spoke first. "Director, I don't question your compassion. But compassion without boundaries is not virtue, it's suicide. We are watching our civilization crumble. How many human children must go hungry before you admit we cannot save everyone?" Sang-hee met his eyes. "Counselor, you ask how many children must go hungry? I ask this. What kind of people do we become if we condemn millions to death to make our own lives more comfortable? Yes, we're struggling. Yes, people are suffering. But we're suffering while helping others survive. That's not weakness. That's strength. It's not strength if we all die together. Then we find another way." Sang-hee's voice rose. "We innovate, we adapt. We work with the refugees to build something new. But we don't abandon people. We don't become the kind of civilization that calculates the worth of lives on spreadsheets." Jin-ho's response was immediate. "Those spreadsheets represent real human suffering. You're so focused on saving aliens that you've forgotten your own people." The debate continued, but neither side convinced the other. The human worlds remained divided. In the midst of the chaos, Engineer Dae-hyun made a discovery. Working with Thessian and a team of Velrathi engineers, they had been trying to solve humanity's energy crisis. The Velrathi technology used crystalline energy storage that was far more efficient than human batteries. "Look at this," Dae-hyun said, showing the data to Captain Hyunwoo. "If we can adapt this technology, we could reduce energy costs across all human colonies by 60%. That's not a small thing, that's revolutionary." Hyunwoo studied the data. "How long to implement?" "Months, maybe a year for full deployment. But we could start with critical systems immediately. It was hope, small but real. Dr. Bora worked with Velrathi medical specialists to create hybrid treatment centers. The crystalline healing protein, combined with human medical knowledge, saved lives that would have been lost. Her team published their findings, sharing the knowledge freely with any species that wanted it. Some council species took the knowledge and used it. They wouldn't admit it publicly, wouldn't thank humanity, but they used it. Lives were saved across the galaxy, whether the council approved or not. Intelligence Officer Minseok worked in secret, coordinating with sympathetic aliens, young species tired of the council's cold calculus. Dissidents within council civilizations who disagreed with their leaders. They met in hidden channels, encrypted communications, speaking carefully about possibilities. "We can't sustain a revolution," one Korthi dissident said. "The council is too powerful." "Not revolution," Minseok replied. "Evolution. We build an alternative, show that another way is possible." The conversations continued, quiet but growing. With 1 week left until the ultimatum deadline, Ambassador Mireille made a decision. She had been instructed by the coalition to negotiate, to try to find a compromise with the council. But she knew there was no compromise possible. The council wanted the refugees gone. Humanity refused. She stood before the full Galactic Council, representatives from 200 civilizations watching her. High Chancellor Vrex, the insectoid leader, looked at her with compound eyes that showed no emotion. "Ambassador, has humanity reached a decision?" he asked. Mireille took a deep breath. She thought about the refugees in her reports. The arrival of the Velrathi refugees changed Earth forever. 7 million crystal-bodied beings descended on a world that had never hosted so many aliens at once. Governor Yun Seo stood in the New Sol Command Center, watching the landing ships come down one after another, and wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. Not morally, she knew they had done the right thing, but practically the logistics were overwhelming. Parks across the city were transformed overnight. Engineers installed the special lights that the Velrathi needed to survive, lights that mimicked their dead sun's spectrum. The aliens spread out beneath these artificial suns, their crystalline bodies soaking up the energy, colors brightening from gray to pale blues and greens. Some of them cried, or at least that's what the telepath said. The Velrathi had no tears, but their grief and gratitude poured out in waves of emotion. Teacher Kyung-soo volunteered to help at one of the refugee centers in the converted stadium near his school. He had taught history for 20 years, but nothing prepared him for this. Velrathi children, smaller, more fragile versions of the adults, clustered together under the lights. They were scared. They didn't understand the language, the customs, the world around them. Kyung-soo approached one group slowly, holding out a piece of fruit. The children shrank back at first. Then one, braver than the others, reached out a crystalline hand. The fruit touched his palm and colors rippled across his body. Curiosity, hunger, hope. The child ate and the others crowded closer. His wife Sunmi worked at the medical center nearby. She was a therapist, and the trauma cases were unlike anything in her textbooks. The Velrathi had watched their world die. They had spent 3 years in darkness, watching family members fade away. Some of them couldn't speak anymore, even telepathically. They just sat under the lights, empty. Sunmi sat with an elderly Velrathi female holding her hand. The aliens' colors were so dim they were almost invisible. Through a translator, Sunmi spoke quietly. "You're safe now. You're safe." The Velrathi's response came in broken thoughts. "I had 3 children. They died, all 3. I should have died with them, but you didn't. You survived. Maybe so you could help others heal." The colors flickered, just barely. Not much, but something. Back on the Wandering Hope, Captain Hyunwoo received news that made his stomach sink. Another refugee group had been detected. The Nethrin, a fungal collective intelligence, fleeing from a biological weapon that was destroying their worlds. 3 million of them drifting in outdated ships. He contacted Director Sang-hee immediately. "Director, we have another situation." Sang-hee closed her eyes. She looked older than she had a month ago. "How many?" 3 million. "We're already stretched thin, Captain. Food reserves are dropping. The Council's sanctions are starting to hurt. Some colonies are reporting shortages, I know. But we can't leave them." Sang-hee smiled tiredly. "Go get them, Captain. We'll figure it out." The rescue operation launched again. This time, Merchant Captain Subin volunteered her freight company's ships. Her business was already suffering. Alien ports refused human goods because of council pressure. She was going to lose everything anyway. Might as well lose it helping people. Her crew questioned her decision. "Captain, if we do this, we're finished. The company will go bankrupt." Subin looked at the sensor readings showing the Nethrin ships. "Then we go bankrupt doing something that matters. Prepare for rescue operations." On Earth, the news of more refugees sparked anger. Counselor Jinho led the opposition. He stood before cameras, his face red with frustration. How many? How many refugees before we admit we can't save everyone? Our children are going hungry so aliens can eat. Our economy is collapsing. This madness has to stop. His words resonated with thousands of people. Protests erupted in several cities. Not large ones, not yet, but growing. People were scared. They had been told their sacrifices would be temporary, but now more refugees kept coming. Jinho didn't know that his teenage daughter Haiwan was secretly volunteering at a refugee center. She had lied about her identity. Using her mother's maiden name, she worked long hours, helping Velrathi children adapt to human schools, teaching them basic language skills. One day, a young Velrathi girl named Kristen approached her. Kristen's colors were bright now. She was one of the lucky ones who arrived young enough to recover quickly. Through a translator device, she spoke. "Teacher Heywan, why do some humans hate us? We hear them shouting outside." Heywan felt her throat tighten. "They don't hate you. They're scared. Scared that there won't be enough for everyone. Is there enough?" Heywan didn't have an answer. Dr. Bora, still working aboard the Wandering Hope, made a discovery that changed everything. She had been studying Velrathi biology, trying to understand their medical needs. What she found was remarkable. The crystalline structure of their bodies produced a protein during photosynthesis, and that protein had incredible properties. It accelerated healing in humans by a factor of 10. She brought the data to Hyunwoo immediately. "Captain, this could revolutionize human medicine. Injuries that take months to heal could take weeks. The Velrathi could synthesize this protein and share it with us." Hyunwoo contacted Thessian, who had become the unofficial leader of the Velrathi refugees. Through Jiwon's telepathic translation, they spoke. "You saved our lives," Thessian said. "This knowledge is yours. Use it freely. We owe you everything." "You owe us nothing," Hyunwoo replied. "But if you want to help, we won't refuse." The protein became the first trade good between humans and Velrathi. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Other discoveries followed. Engineer Dae-hyun worked with Nethrin organic engineers and found their fungal biology could break down waste products into rich fertilizer. The Nethrin could help Earth's agriculture while feeding themselves. The refugees weren't just victims. They were people with skills, knowledge, ideas. Slowly, the relationship shifted from charity to partnership. But the crisis deepened. A third group of refugees arrived. The Yulani, bird-like beings whose worlds had been destroyed by mining operations that the Galactic Council had approved. 2 million of them. Earth's resources strained past the breaking point. On Mars colony, riots broke out. Security Chief Jae-sung tried to maintain order, as angry colonists clashed with refugee supporters. A Nethrin district was attacked. Buildings burned. People died, 3 humans and 7 Nethrin. Jae-sung stood in the ashes afterward, looking at the bodies. This was what desperation looked like. Good people pushed too far, making terrible choices. Director Sang-hee appeared on every screen across human space that evening. She looked exhausted. "I know you're scared. I know you're angry. We're asking you to sacrifice and you don't know when it will end. I don't have easy answers. But I can tell you this. We will not become the kind of people who turn away those in need because it's hard. We will not calculate the worth of lives. We are better than that." Financial Minister Won-shik presented her with devastating numbers after the broadcast. "Director, at current rates, Earth's economy will collapse in 6 months. Unemployment is at 15% and climbing. Food reserves are critically low. We can't sustain this. What are our options? Ask the refugees to leave. Accept the Council's terms. Or face economic disaster." Sang-hee looked at the data, the charts, the projections. All of it pointed to catastrophe. Then she looked at another screen, showing a Velrathi child laughing. Actually laughing while playing with human children in a new Seoul park. "We continue," she said. "Find another way." Counselor Jinho's daughter Heywan faced her own crisis. Kristen's mother fell ill with a human disease, influenza. something harmless to humans but potentially fatal to Velrathi. The refugee medical centers were overwhelmed. She needed treatment at a better facility, but those were reserved for human citizens. Hei-Wan made a choice. She called her father, revealing her secret volunteering and begging him to use his political influence to get Kristen's mother treatment. Jin-Ho was furious. "You lied to me. You've been working with them this whole time?" "Yes, because it's right." "Dad, please. She's going to die." Jin-Ho wanted to refuse. He wanted to teach his daughter about consequences, about reality, but he looked at her face, saw the desperation there, and remembered why he had gone into politics in the first place, to help people. He made the call. Kristen's mother got the treatment. She survived. That night, Jin-Ho went to the refugee center. He saw the children, the families, the exhausted workers trying to help. He saw his daughter sitting with Kristen, both of them crying with relief. He didn't change his mind about the refugee policy. Not yet, but something in him shifted. On the Wandering Hope, Captain Hyun-woo received a transmission from the Galactic Council. High Chancellor Vrex, the insectoid leader, delivered an ultimatum. His compound eyes showed no emotion. "Humanity has 30 days to expel all refugees from your territory. If you refuse, the Council will impose a complete quarantine. No trade, no travel, no contact with galactic civilization. You will be cut off, completely." The transmission ended. Hyun-woo sat in his command chair, processing the threat. Lieutenant Ji-won approached quietly. "Captain, sensors are detecting multiple ships approaching. Unknown configuration, Council warships." "No, sir. Something else." "Lots of them. On the view screen, ships began appearing. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. They were Captain Hyun-woo sat in his command chair aboard the exploration vessel Wandering Hope, watching the stars drift past the view screen. His crew had been surveying the outer veil for 3 weeks now, a region of space that most civilizations considered worthless, empty, forgotten. But Hyun-woo liked the quiet out here, far from the bustling trade routes and the political games of the Galactic Council. Lieutenant Ji-won looked up from her communication station, her face puzzled. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. Energy signatures, but they're not from any engines I recognize." Hyun-woo leaned forward. "Show me." The view screen changed, displaying sensor data. Massive objects drifted in the darkness ahead. As they drew closer, the crew could see them clearly. 17 enormous ships, dark and silent, but not completely dead. Faint lights flickered across their hulls like dying fireflies. "Life signs?" Hyun-woo asked. Ji-won worked her console, her hands moving quickly. "Yes, Captain. Thousands of them. Maybe millions. They're weak, very weak." Hyun-woo stood. "Take us closer, carefully." As the Wandering Hope approached, the alien ships became clearer. They were beautiful in a haunting way, covered in patterns that seemed almost grown rather than built. Through the transparent sections of their hulls, movement could be seen. Slow, desperate movement. Ji-won gasped. "Captain, I'm receiving something." "Not radio." It's in my head." "What do you mean?" "Telepathy, I think. They're trying to communicate." She closed her eyes, concentrating. Her face went pale. "Oh no. Oh God, they're dying." The images came through Ji-won in broken fragments. A world circling a dying star. Evacuation ships launching in desperate haste. Pleas for help sent to the Galactic Council, to neighboring civilizations, to anyone who would listen. Closed doors. Rejected requests. Cold calculations about resources and worthiness. 3 years of drifting through empty space, watching children waste away, hope fading like their ship's power. Ji-won opened her eyes, tears streaming down her face. "They're called the Velrathi, Captain. They're dying, all of them." Hyun-woo felt his jaw tighten. He had heard rumors about the Council's policies, about how they decided which species deserved help and which didn't. He had told himself the rumors were exaggerated. Looking at those dying ships, he knew they weren't. "Get me a channel to their command ship," he ordered. "Captain," his second officer spoke up. "Regulations require Council approval before contact with refugee situations." Hyun-woo looked at him. "Noted. Open the channel anyway." The view screen flickered, showing the bridge of the alien vessel. The beings there were unlike anything Hyun-woo had seen. Their bodies seemed made of living crystal, transparent and shimmering with faint colors. But the colors were dim now, almost gray. One of them stood in the center, Clearly the captain. His crystalline form was cracked in places like glass under too much stress. Through Jiwan's telepathic link, words formed. Human ship. We mean no harm. We have nothing to offer. We only wait for the end now. Hyunwoo felt something hard form in his chest. Anger, sadness, determination. My name is Captain Hyunwoo of the United Earth Coalition. How many of you are there? 7,400,000. Once we were 9 million. The number hit like a physical blow. Nearly 2 million dead in 3 years floating through the dark. What do you need? Hyunwoo asked. The Velrothi captain's colors flickered with surprise. Need? We want food, light. Our biology requires specific light for energy. We have been in darkness so long. Hyunwoo turned to his crew. Dr. Bora, can we help them? The ship's doctor was already working her medical console. Maybe. Our agricultural lights might work. It's similar to the spectrum they need. But Captain, we don't have enough supplies for millions. Not even close. Then we get more supplies. Hyunwoo opened a channel to Earth knowing what he was about to do would probably end his career. He didn't care. Director Sang-hee's face appeared on the screen. She was the head of the United Earth Coalition's Exploration Division, and she looked tired. Captain Hyunwoo, your report is early. Director, I'm sending you visual data now. We've found 17 colony ships. 7 million refugees. They're dying. Sang-hee watched the feed, her expression hardening. The Velrothi. We heard about them. The council rejected their petition 2 years ago. I know. Director, I'm requesting permission to render aid. The council will object. They'll say we're interfering, that we're wasting resources on a species they deemed non-viable. Yes, ma'am. They probably will. Sang-hee was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, just slightly. How many ships do you need? Relief flooded through Hyunwoo. All of them. Every ship we can spare. You'll have them. Sang-hee out. Within hours the response came. Not just from Earth, but from Mars, from the colonies on Europa and Titan. From the mining stations in the asteroid belt. Freighters changed course. Passenger liners volunteered. Private ships, some barely spaceworthy, powered up their engines and set course for the outer veil. The Galactic Council responded exactly as predicted. Ambassador Taeyang of the Krethic Empire delivered their message personally, his reptilian features cold with disapproval. Humanity is making a grave error. These refugees are a drain on resources. The galaxy operates on efficiency, not sentiment. Reverse your decision or face economic sanctions. Director Sang-hee's response was broadcast across all human worlds and beyond. Ambassador, humanity has heard your position. Our answer is no. We will not abandon those in need because it's inconvenient. We will not calculate the value of lives on spreadsheets. If the price of joining your civilization is cruelty, then we'll build our own civilization, one that doesn't look away. The message ended. Silence fell across the council chambers. Then slowly the other ambassadors began to speak. Mostly condemnation, a few quiet voices of surprise, even respect. But the verdict was clear. Humanity would be punished for this choice. On the wandering hope, Hyunwoo didn't watch the political theater. He was too busy. His crew worked around the clock installing temporary lights on the Velrothi ships, sharing their food supplies, stabilizing life support. It wasn't enough, not nearly enough, but it was something. The dim colors of the Velrothi began to brighten just a little. The Velrothi captain, who asked to be called Thessian, stood with Hyunwoo on the human ship's observation deck. Through Jiwan's translation he spoke. Why, we are nothing to you. Helping us costs you everything. Hyunwoo looked out at the approaching fleet of human ships, dozens of them, coming to help strangers. You're not nothing. You're people who need help. That's enough. Thessian's colors shifted through patterns that Jiwan said meant confusion, gratitude, and profound sorrow all at once. The galaxy told us we were not worth saving. The galaxy was wrong. Over the next week, the rescue operation grew. Engineer Dae-hyun worked with the Velrothi to understand their technology, their needs. Dr. Bora treated thousands of sick and starving refugees. The human crew saw things that would haunt them. Children who had never known anything but darkness and hunger. Families holding each other as they faded away, hope that had been ground down to nothing. But they also saw that hope rekindling, slowly, painfully, like a flame refusing to die. News of humanity's actions spread through the galaxy. Most reactions were negative. The humans were fools throwing away their future for strangers, but some younger species watched with interest. A few even sent quiet messages of support. On Earth, Governor Yoon Seo of New Seoul prepared entire districts to receive refugees. Citizens donated food, water, clothes. Schools prepared programs for alien children. It wasn't perfect. There was opposition, fear, resentment. But the majority chose compassion. As the last Velrothi ship was secured to a human freighter for the journey to Earth, Hyun-woo stood on his bridge. He knew what was coming: economic disaster, political isolation, maybe even the end of humanity's place in the Galactic Council. But when he looked at the alien ships, now glowing with light and life instead of dying in darkness, he knew it was worth it. Ji-won approached him quietly. "Captain, the Council is demanding we appear before them to answer for our actions." Hyun-woo nodded. "Tell them we'll come. But the refugees go to Earth first." "Yes, sir." The Wandering Hope turned toward home, leading a fleet of rescued lives. Behind them, the empty darkness of the outer veil seemed a little less lonely. Humanity had chosen mercy over pragmatism. They had no idea how much that choice would cost them, or how much it would change everything.